There we go.
Morning, everyone. Today is Friday, January 24th, and we are here for the Colorado Forest Health Council Legislative Committee. I call this meeting to order. I'm Chair Larimer County Commissioner Joey Shad McNally, and let's take roll call. Thank you, Courtney, or Roberta, or whoever's doing it. Thank you.
Yes, I'll take roll. Samantha Albert.
Present.
Morning, Samantha. Katie McGrath Novak. Pat Dorsey let me know she was not going to be able to make it today. Christina Beery.
Morning.
Good morning, Christina. Commissioner Jody Shaddock McNally.
Present.
Morning, Commissioner. Mark Morgan.
Present.
Morning, Mark. Julie Stencil. Commissioner Veronica Medina.
Good morning. Present.
Good morning, Commissioner. And Allison Lurch.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So we have reached quorum, which is great today.
Great. Wonderful. Well, welcome, everyone. I hope that you had a warm weekend last weekend and hopefully warm this weekend too. So we'll start off with approving the minutes from last week. I'm looking for my agenda. Sorry, Courtney. I'm juggling a lot of balls. So does anyone have any questions or any concerns about the minutes? Is any additions?
I'd move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Well, is there any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to approving the minutes? All right, those minutes are approved. So let's move on to our next item, and that would be, sorry, Courtney, I'm just trying to pull up. I got too many screens up today.
No, I got it.
So we're just looking at our next item is just continue our discussion on, the 007, increased prescribed burn. So we're going to need to discuss that first. That is a bill that actually is in test, going into legislative committee on Tuesday, and we are been asked to maybe consider supporting that. Actually, I was contacted the last 2 days as an individual commissioner to go and testify. I'm not sure if I'm going to try, but we have some new Congress representatives who want to also have meetings on my busiest day of the week. So I'm going to figure out how to fit that all in. So, Jane, would you like to explain this prescribed burn bill? I know it, but I think it would be great if you shared it.
Absolutely, and please feel free to add in anything that I may get wrong or just additional information. Like the commissioner said, this bill has been already assigned a committee hearing date. It is due up in committee in the Senate on February 5th, which is 2 weeks from Wednesday. So it's quickly approaching. This bill stemmed from the Wildfire Matter Review Committee, the interim committee that the Forest Health Council bill usually presents in front of. And this was a bill that was really being pushed by the Nature Conservancy. And I think that's how this bill got brought up. Our friend Rob Addington was on this legislative call last week and had asked for some feedback on that one. Basically, from a very top level, what this bill is trying to do is getting more prescribed fire on the landscape, and it's doing it in two different ways. The first way is it's creating this new fund, the Prescribed Fire Cash Fund, which will start with $1 million appropriation from the general fund to create this fund. And then as people pay into the fund, it'll kind of work as an insurance pool to kind of keep it going. And so what that fund will then do is if some of these prescribed fires, there's some mishaps, they can ask for a claim, and that claim can then be put out into there. They can reimburse themselves, and then everything's kind of taken care of. The second thing that this bill is doing to try and increase prescribed fire on the landscape is it's not technically changing what a certified burner manager or a burn manager is, but it's expanding what it can be. And so it's opening up reciprocity. I think in the way that it's currently defined right now, you have to go through these certain classes. This is expanding it that as long as you give a work program, how much you're doing, what the outcomes are supposed to be, and this plan to the Division of Fire Protection in the Department of Public Safety, the DPS will then be able to like certify that plan and give you the ability to go ahead and do that prescribed burning on, and this can be on private land or even public land. And so, and I'll be very frank. What DPS is worried about specifically with this one is by expanding that to include not the people that go through the program, it could cause for some more insurance claims. And I think that's the reason for this fund to be created, because right now only certified burners can do it. If we expand it, they're going to need, it's basically like an insurance pool is what this fund is. So they're going to need a larger insurance pool to make sure that if things go bad, there is a fund to pay out some of these claims. And so that's basically what this bill is in a nutshell. Is it's creating a fund and it's expanding who can do prescribed burning, and it is being strongly supported by the Nature Conservancy. And it is right now, it is a bipartisan bill in the House. And that's basically all I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Commissioner?
No, this has also been thank you, James, also discussion in the subcommittee between the Fire Commission and the Forest Health Council that Katie and I sit on. And I think this has been supported from that subcommittee, James. I think this was a recommendation that's also came out of, I think, with the discussion, right? Is that correct too? The Fire Commission to discuss this. So I know the Fire Commission met last week or the week before. Did they discuss this and make a recommendation or not? Do you know? I haven't got to talk to the commissioners from that committee yet.
I don't know about that. Maybe somebody else on the call might have better intuition on that.
Allison?
Courtney, do you remember?
I was at the meeting. I wasn't actually allowed to, ended up not being allowed to vote. I'm trying to remember if everyone else took a vote on this. I don't remember this being something that the commission voted on. I can look to see if the notes have come out.
Katie, do you have something to add?
I don't have a lot to add, but I was just gonna say, so I wasn't at the Fire Commission meeting either, but I know that they didn't officially approve the prescribed fire strategic plan. They sent it back with some notes and they're gonna try to approve it in March. My understanding was that at least the claims fund part of this arose like parallel to what we were discussing in that group. So it was kind of, the conversation was happening at the same time, but it didn't come from that group. And I'm guessing that the certified burner thing also kind of came up separately because it sounds really similar to what we have recommended in that plan, but it's not quite the same. So my guess is that this is separate, but mostly aligned.
Yeah, I do think it's a little different, but mostly aligned. James, do you feel, I don't remember if you looked at those recommendations. Do you remember if what was the biggest difference?
Unfortunately, I haven't looked at those recommendations in quite some time.
So does anyone else have any questions or concerns, or what is, can we ask staff recommendation? I know the Nature Conservancy is a strong supporter of this, so that speaks a lot, but I'm curious, does DNR or anyone else, did you guys come up with a amendments or discussions or questions or concerns or thumbs up? Or
James, I'm pretty sure right now we don't have a position on this.
At least the Department of Natural Resources doesn't. I know that in my conversations with Daphne and Allie, I think we were going to let DPS kind of lead that, since it is more so within DFPC's realm. I have not talked with Joel Maleka, I think since we've touched briefly on this discussion, but I don't know if that department is actually taking a position either. But I know right now, Department of Natural Resources has no position on the bill.
great, thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Couple of questions, and maybe some clarification here. This fund that you're going to pay into and add on to this $1 million beginning fund, what's the ultimate goal for the dollar value in the fund? What's the top cap that you're looking for? The $1 million minimum for the bottom? Because in dealing with a lot of insurance situations in private industry, sometimes a really large policy is counterproductive because it acts as attractant for litigators. If there's more money to be out there, if somebody's going to punish you and you have a $10 million umbrella policy, they're going to sue you for 10 plus probably 2 million. They're going to sue for 12. If you've got a $1 million policy, they sue you for $1 million plus another 500,000. So sometimes, I guess I'm curious what the upper end of this cap would be on this fund that you're going to create. And then secondly, whenever you have a fund like that, who defends the fund? That fund, I mean, the principle's good here, but what person, organization, legal counsel, whoever would, if you had a problem, would represent the other side of that? Who would litigate that? I guess I would be real curious where that would fall under. Those would be two concerns that I have. Do you have, James, do you have any information on that?
There's no top dollar amount up for how much they're doing. What I can say is that for each of these, when you're buying into the program to actually like start your process, start your plan, there is a minimum dollar amount that you have to provide, and that it's $100 or less to actually get that plan approved. But there is no top limit, at least in the legislation, that says we can only carry up to this amount of money in that fund. The only kind of caveat is that, again, I think your intuition is right here, that there's the $1 million floor. And there is language in there that says gifts, grants, and donations. So as long as you don't even have to use the fund to pay into the fund, gifts, grants, and donations. And then another one is as available by appropriations by the legislature. So if this works wildly and we see it successful and the legislature decides to add more money, then they can do that. But there is no cap on how much, as far as I can read, how much money can be in that fund.
Commissioner Medina.
Yes, my concerns would be so one, the certified burner, that's a concern. Just, what are those qualifications? And then also I personally wouldn't want to vote on this until whatever the fire commission committee, whatever they pushed forward to get answers on, get their questions answered. I don't feel like we have enough information to support or not.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina. The caveat there is that we won't meet again until after the session's over as a full Forest Health Council. So we kind of need to have some, I don't think we do, right? Until, is it April or is it May, June? Allison, because we meet in February. Is it April? Yeah,
We just
April.
are scheduling the next Forest Health Council meeting. I think it's going to be April 30th.
Yeah, and the session ends the first week of May. So, so this is something that we would need to, I know we have a process if we want to send out to if we have bills, but this is kind of our time to do it before our meeting on February 6th. This has been discussed at length with a lot of us in the room. They have been at the subcommittee and Katie and others are on the fire commission as well. So I hear your concerns, and the burn boss thing was, that was kind of a key, remind me, James, that was kind of a key thing to try to keep and have, we could pull in burn bosses from other places that we needed to have some reciprocity and things. And so that was a really important thing because it's hard really to find qualified burn bosses and have them feel comfortable. Thanks
Yes.
for putting that up. Yeah.
That is
So,
part of the bill.
Yeah. Courtney, you have your hand raised. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you. This is something I'm not certain about, but I'm just brainstorming, trying to touch on concerns. It might not be unprecedented to have maybe an additional hour-long council meeting during the legislative session. If, I don't know if we would do it for just one bill, but if we realize there's quite a few bills that might need support that we aren't able to make decisions on February 6th, maybe it's possible. I know we have had an additional meeting one time, and it was actually to approve the annual report. Maybe that's tricky, and I shouldn't even play with the idea of an additional meeting for the council. But for now, Jody's right that in order for this committee to take action on a bill, the full council has to at some point vote to support it.
And it might get to the full council and we voted. I mean, we could go ahead and move to support it now. And then when we get to the full council on February 6th, Commissioner Medina, you can do some more research, James, and everyone can bring this up and we can discuss those concerns again. And then we can always raise those concerns and pull the recommend, in the meeting. We can always, it's not like this will be, usually the council asks a lot of questions about the bill, so it could not be approved or supported at the full council, but at least we can move it. If we pose now, then we really can't recommend it and we can't continue the discussion, and maybe we can all do some more digging in and ask some more questions before then. Mr. Morgan.
I want to be supportive of controlled burns and burning and the ability to do so. I just feel like I would have to have a whole lot more information on exactly the mechanics of how this would be done. I would agree with Commissioner Medina that on the surface, it doesn't appear to be enough information to make a good decision for me. But somebody knows more than I do. Please step in and convince me or explain to me whether, if you feel comfortable with this, tell me how.
Samantha?
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing, I think, Mark. I mean, is it possible to just move it forward for discussion with the council without taking a stance?
We could, I think we could just add it to the, Courtney, Allison, that's a good suggestion since we have quite a few people that need more information. Is it something we could just move for, we have a neutral position and we'd like to move it forward for the full council conversation. Maybe we can have more information then, Courtney?
I think that that's definitely a viable option. I was putting something similar in the chat. I'm wondering if maybe someone from DFPC, we could arrange for them to speak a little bit more on it so we could get their perspective, since at least from the state's perspective, they're the lead agency.
Or maybe the some of the folks have been doing the fire commission, the subcommittee, the consultant too, who's been out and talking with people and stuff. I don't know because that came out of that group too, correct? But this is a different one. This is a separate one. That's looks like it's aligned, but a little bit different, correct? James?
I'm unsure on that one too, just because I haven't been in those fire commission meetings.
Okay, let's Katie, your hand's been up.
Yeah, I really like the idea of bringing it to the council without us having a stance. I'm pretty comfortable with the claims fund, but I'm actually less comfortable with the certified burner one just because I don't know if that aligns with what the subcommittee came up with, and I want to make sure that I would like to stay aligned with that subcommittee because those are people who I feel like have put so much thought into this. I also was going to point out, I think the Prescribed Fire Subcommittee is having another meeting.
February 3rd.
Yeah.
It's between now and our Forest Health Council meeting. I wonder if we could,
It's February 3rd.
February
Katie.
3rd. Okay.
And then
So maybe we could bring it up there and ask them to discuss, because in my opinion, that subcommittee is like the gathering of prescribed fire people in the entire state. And I would trust whatever they come up with. And then, yeah, maybe we can have Heather or somebody from DFPC come and kind of give their input and help use that to help guide the rest of the council. And I can't make that meeting. I'm going to be on vacation, but I could help set up that, or I'm sure you could, Commissioner, as well.
Yeah. Mr. Morgan.
Generally, in situations like this, somebody has a real good vision of where they're trying to get, and then you try to write a bill that encompasses you and allows you to do that. I guess I would like to find the person who has that vision and maybe get a little short presentation to us. Who's, you know,
Since Nature Conservancy and Rob have been kind of pushing on this, or the bill sponsor, I don't know, is that something we could have at the full Forest Health Council meeting, put on the agenda?
I'll defer to that, but what I know is possible is those meetings with the Wildfire Review Committee are all public meetings. I'm going to do some digging right now in their archives to see if I can find their presentation, and I can send it to Courtney and have Courtney send it to the full council here.
That's a great suggestion. Great idea. Okay. So I think what I'm hearing would be, Julie.
Oh, nope, sorry. James literally just answered the question I had, which was, could we attend those meetings as a member of the public to just get some more, insight into the discussion? So thank you, James. You read my mind this morning.
Great. Yeah, we're all in sync. That's great. So I will, I'm going to suggest, I'm looking for a motion for us to move this item to recommend a further discussion to the Forest Health Council for a stance on a position for the bill. Do I have a motion? Did I make that too complicated?
I think I know what you're saying, and I would be okay with moving to do that.
Just trying to get it so we can have a further discussion with the full council.
Yeah.
So recommending forwarding this bill to the full council for further discussion to get a full council input on a position for this bill.
I'll second.
Okay, is anyone opposed to that? Okay, great. Let's keep rolling on. So now we're going, I'm just going to say, do we want me to go ahead and do all those in favor, Courtney? Instead of just abstain, or anybody?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we should do, just because there was some.
Let's do that. Okay, everyone in favor of that motion? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, that's better. Okay.
thank you.
Yep. The last few meetings, we've had to move so fast that we're like, we had so like 10 different motions to get through. So we're like, anyone opposed? Okay, move on. So that's why that was last night. So lots of fun. Okay, so next we're going to continue our discussion, and to remind everyone, we're scheduled till 10 o'clock today. And I do have a hard stop at 10:15 because I have a funeral for a veteran in my community that was a dear friend of mine. So that's why I'm all dressed in black. So I'm trying to get out the door and get ready. So, or be there early. So, Courtney, Allison, do you guys have where you'd like to start?
Sure. So at the last meeting, well, the last few meetings, we've been working on this list of legislative recommendations. These are mostly concepts. And we sort of split these out a few people took some homework items to turn some of these concepts into language. And so Alice and I could go ahead and share the language that we created for item number 1 and 3. And then if Christina had the time to talk with the folks at the State Forest Service, maybe she could share what she drafted for the Good Neighbor Authority. And then Jody, I think you maybe came up with some things, and I think some other people perhaps were thinking about this also. So I'm going to share this document again, and then I'll share my screen with what Allison and I were working on this week.
Courtney, can I share the document that we were, that's where, did you just share our document?
No,
with our
I didn't,
updated
but you're,
language?
yeah, you're welcome to
Okay.
do that too. So I don't, does everyone feel comfortable reading this on their own? Sometimes I feel bad reading very long things to people when it's on their screen. So maybe we can look at the first one together. This was about maintaining funding for some of the state grant or state funding programs. I got to make it doesn't go bigger.
I think that's a great way of suggesting that and not having a number attached because we don't know what, what they could or could not do, but I like the last sentence a lot. Any other comments?
Commissioner, yeah.
Katie?
I also really like that last sentence. Is there a way to put in numbers like we received X number of dollars in applications versus only being able to award this many? So it's really important because I remember that was one of their questions at the last year's when we presented. They were like, well, how much did you get? And we didn't have a number prepared. So I think it would be great to put a number there if possible.
Well, I think it would be great. It's a great suggestion. We could just make sure this year we put that in the narrative and we can share several we can put it in slides and share couple of years of data.
Yeah, not necessarily
keep this
asking for a
clean.
certain amount
Yeah.
of funding, but just saying like, this is how much funding we were asked for, and this is how much we had this year.
Important.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, like Jody said, for the narrative. I think one interesting thing to keep in mind is we will be if these do get brought before the legislature, it'll be in 2026. So I'm wondering if when it goes to be presented, if it should have 2025 numbers in it that don't yet exist. But I think if we put numbers in right now, they would be 2024 numbers, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but we would want to make sure to also have updated numbers.
That's why I was wondering if we could go ahead and pull that in the narrative and maybe share 23, 24, and 25 and then share all those numbers. So just to keep this clean.
Yeah.
Does anyone, you guys are making this simple. Does anyone have any objections or any additions or concerns? Allison?
It's not an objection or concern. It's just the invitation that just because Courtney and I, our homework was to take these two recommendations and, make them more substantial, that if you would like to come into this document and add anything or change anything, I just wanted to invite you all to be able to do that as well.
Thank you, Allison. I've been looking at a lot, thinking, do I go in there and tweak that or add a comment there? But I appreciate that. So, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, I think you've done an excellent job. And I think at this point, as things progress, this is for 2026. Sometimes, call it what you want, a strategy or whatever, introduce a concept, let our legislators ask for the potential cost or the funding level that would be suggested, that we could then flush out at that time. So I think you've done an excellent job. I think it's detailed enough, but not too detailed.
Well, and I think also we will know more about conditions and budgets and things like that even in the next few months. So I think it'll be a lot more information as we go along, but I think keeping these high level and simple and clean as we present them will make it easier for discussion, since we're doing really good being a whole year out. So I really think this is great. So I would look for a motion to approve this.
I'd so move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
Anyone opposed? Great job. Thank you, Courtney and Allison. Let's go to number 2. Christina.
Thank you. My only concern / question is, I get the benefit of wanting to leverage the programs, but at the same time, my question is, would there be any downsides or negatives that could be with the combining or leveraging of CoSwap with Wildfire Ready Watersheds? I mean, are there efficiencies in the combination or leveraging of the two programs, but is there an importance to keep them separate? I'm just worried that this could send a message that they should be combined, and maybe they should, and that's fine. But the mechanics behind that I know could be also not efficient too. So it's just not super clear from this description what we're asking, and I'm just nervous that this could also get in people's minds like they should be combined, and I don't know one way or the other if that's the right way to go. So those are just some initial thoughts and questions in reading that.
Thank you, Christina. Commissioner Medina.
Yes, I had the same thoughts. And, you know, when we're specifically calling out other programs, I mean, those are obviously programs that you see at, you know, the Front Range, but we have others in our rural areas that we're not calling out. So I think if we call out some, you know, then do we run the risk of not calling out all of them, which there's no way we could. So I would just be cautious there.
Thank you, Commissioner. So these are statewide programs, correct? Available for everyone. And so that's maybe why we're calling the top 3 out. But I also agree with Christina on the kind of, you know, we're careful not to say we're trying to pair them together, but maybe how do we support the collaboration? So when I was reading this, my first thought was, okay, I was looking for what is the action? What's the ask? Is it just supporting the collaboration and the funding to help work? So what's the ask? And that was my question. So Allison, do you want to answer that, and then Commissioner Medina after that?
Yeah, I think we were also in that place of what the ask was for this. So I think we're looking for some more guidance from this committee. And just to answer your question, Christina, and yeah, after reading this right now, I can see that, I mean, we just called out 2 examples, and I could see how that's a limiting. It was more of like just trying to highlight where partnerships and collaboration are working. But why we just to answer or give some insight on your first question, Christine, about like does this make it seem like wildfire ready watersheds and COSWAP should be combined or not? You know, in our discussions with Chris Sturm and the Wildfire Ready Watersheds program, they're not going to be doing forest health work. Like that is not where they're going. They're going to be doing water infrastructure and water projects. Thus, and so that doesn't also really clear, it's not very clearly defined in this that there is truly 2 programs that can complement each other, but they're doing different things. So that's what we received from sort of our background when we went to research about whether Wildfire Ready Watersheds would be diving into this type of, you know, forest restoration, landscape work, and they not in the foreseeable future. So hopefully that just clears up a little bit of that. But I mean, just to go back, Jody, to my first part, which is, I think for this one, yeah, can we have a discussion of what is the ask for this? And I think we need some guidance from you all.
And I wasn't trying to be critical. I think it's well written. It was just that I was looking for, okay, what are we asking them to do? And so that's why I'm thinking, Samantha.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments because it does, you know, state support. That's great. And maybe what we need to do is say specifically like funding when available, or otherwise, what is that? Like to your point, Jody, partnerships, is it amplification of these programs? Is it, you know, I don't know, education opportunities? You know, we talked about interacting with legislatures, maybe it's at the community level, the county level. So I hate to kind of muddy this with too many examples, but perhaps that would help to just do a few of those examples of state partnership. I know funding, obviously this is for 2026, but I know sometimes when you add funding in there, you know, that's a little bit hazy for some folks. So I just want to say I agree, and maybe examples would help.
Thank you, Samantha. Christina.
Thank you. It would be helpful to think about as we're looking at our actions for this committee for next year. It might even help to think of them in terms of like what type of action, that some may be, you know, a legislative recommendation or a legislative fix versus this might be just some talking points for how there's all these programs within the state and leveraging them is, you know, beneficial. And here's some examples. But I think thinking about things that are like legislation and like, you know, things like specific language or programs or anything this committee wants to address. But then there's like these other things we've talked about for how this committee shows support and or raise awareness, education. That may be something that's helpful to talk about as we're talking about each of these ideas. And they may be in different stages too. Thank you.
No, thank you, Christina. Commissioner Medina, you have your hand raised, and I'm curious. Did you have something you wanted to say, or did you change, or just wanted to make sure, because I saw it up a couple of times and I wanted to make sure you got to speak about some things.
Sorry, I had just left my hand raised from before.
Oh, okay. Just want to make
Thank
sure.
you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm going to go with Mr. Morgan and then Courtney.
I agree with the sentiments that have been expressed here about what is the ask, because anytime you are promoting something like this, our representatives are going to ask, what is the ultimate, what are you really asking for, and what's the price tag? And I'm not saying it isn't there. I'm having a little trouble understanding what that is here at this point. And I understand not having a price tag on it yet, but we will have to get there. And you gave an example of a successful thing pairing the two together, but I guess I'm also agree with the concern about not wanting that to be a permanent condition where, you know, these agencies have some autonomy and they have the ability to work together. But I still think, eventually those good fiscal stewards of our money down there are going to ask the question, what do we get for this and how much? And I think we'd have to have an answer ready with that at some point. We'd have to discuss it or come up with one.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. So before I go to Courtney, I just want to have everyone back up in their thoughts for a second. Let's go back to when we started this list and what Courtney and Allison very well crafted this. What is the problem we're trying to solve? So think about that, and then I'm going to go to Courtney.
Oh, such a good question, Jody. Now I'm like, I've got to back up and think about it too. But I just wanted to sort of reiterate that you guys aren't, you're totally on point. You know, I think Allison and I, there was this concept that people were excited about, which was the watershed forest nexus. I think people are also excited about collaboration. So I think we just expanded on that. There isn't really an ask here, as you guys have all identified. So I think there's an opportunity to come up with an ask, or perhaps transition this to more of like a legislative talking point, or something that moves into like the education days as something that we feel excited about, but isn't necessarily a clear, like there's not a legislative ask. And then something I just realized that I want that could be helpful is almost like a menu of legislative options. Like we can create a program, we can fund a program, we can have a legislative fix, we can remove barriers that are in I don't know, statute or regulatory barriers. Like what is the menu of things that this committee could recommend? Because sometimes we're like, well, what could we do with this great idea? So I think I might try to work on that for next year. Pick some of the brains of people who've been really successful getting legislation passed and kind of make a menu for us.
Also, not only the problem to fix, but is there something we want to amplify or increase or support, right, to help stay in place? So it's not only the negative, but I just kind of wanted to kick you back for that. So let's go to Mr. Morgan and then Veronica, Commissioner Medina. Mr. Morgan.
Courtney, I think you're exactly right on this, in that you just mentioned there that I viewed this as an educational thing to begin with. I think we got to make people aware, and the legislators aware. I viewed this as an educational, and you're expanding on the idea of a whole menu of possibilities. I would be fine with that, to make that suggestion, but I kind of viewed this from the beginning as an educational thing, and if it's turning into a hard program, then I needed more information. But I think you're spot on with that comment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Samantha. I think they did a very good job. Commissioner Medina, I saw your thumbs up and your hand was raised. You're good?
Yeah, I was just gonna, that's exactly what I was gonna say, what Mr. Morgan said. And again, to staff, you guys did a great job because you took this on and then just expanded on what you thought we were thinking. So, you know, it's definitely not a negative. You did a great job. And I love the idea of the menu of items. Education piece is super important. So thank you. I don't want to repeat everything Mr. Morgan said, but yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's just put this to the side for a second till the end of our meeting, because about 45 minutes left. And I want to everyone just kind of let it sit there. But let's go back to the rest of the list. Is that your only what you had, or but the other list, I guess?
I was next on the list for GNA. Do you guys want me to?
Yep.
Yep, cool.
Yep.
Courtney, is it okay if I share my screen? I can do that. Okay.
Yes, you should have
Bear with
permissions.
me. Okay. Can you guys also, oh, I'm getting a little pop-up. It says I can't share my screen. Dang it.
Okay, let me keep working on that. I think I just made you co-host. Oh, hold on.
Okay.
I think I got this. Like, shoot. Well, I think you should be able to. Will you just try one more time now that I've made you co-host?
Yes. Shoot. Yeah, it says an error has occurred. I don't know. It must be the Googs not working with me this morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I can summarize, and I can also email this out to folks. So just want to acknowledge James and Everett. Everett was here with this council a couple months ago and talked about Good Neighbor Authority. And so in talking to Everett, I wanted to provide some context, so some more information about how we have been using state funds within Colorado to support Good Neighbor Authority, as well as some of the non-financial ways that we've been supporting and using Good Neighbor Authority, to give some context, and then also describe how other states are funding and implementing Good Neighbor Authority. So states like Washington and Oregon certainly have huge investments and successful programs. So provide that context. And then from there, talk about I wanted to get a sense from the committee on one, some of the action that we would look to take, whether that being thinking about increased funding, which I know right now, given the budget situation, is not palatable, but also just want to put forth what other states are funding. So not necessarily asking for increase in funding for the state, but just comparisons to other states. And that's kind of a natural line of thinking once you see what other states are investing. As well as just some possible Colorado revised statute modifications that this committee could pursue, and even a lesser effort on the state side, but more thinking about encouragement or letters for federal policy changes. So those are kind of like the three buckets of actions that this committee could consider. But wanted to start with some context on Good Neighbor Authority. So how Colorado has been supporting Good Neighbor Authority in the state is about $6 million, basically, over the past few years. So in comparison to other states, Montana, so this is all-time state funding received for Good Neighbor Authority, 14 million, Washington, 20 million, Oregon, 29 million, Colorado, 6 million. So that's where we're at in terms of like other comparisons throughout the state. Colorado, how we have supported or leveraged our state funds is through our existing programs. So stimulus funds, the governor, through the American Recovery, the ARPA funding, gave $3 million for 3 specific projects that were Good Neighbor Authority. So $3 million there. As well as using funds from existing programs through the state. So that would be Furworm, the Healthy Forest Fiber Communities, and CoSwap leveraging Good Neighbor Authority federal money. So that's how Colorado stacks up in comparison financially. So other states, Oregon has had a state bill that provided $220 million overall, not just for Good Neighbor Authority, but overall for forest resiliency. The state of Washington, $125 million for forest resiliency. And so we certainly, if we wanted to learn from Washington, our Good Neighbor Authority person, Everett, has a really good relationship. He used to work for the state of Washington and has offered that staff person to come and talk to this group if that's something we want to learn more about other states' programs and legislative recommendations that made that possible. So In terms of funding asks, again, that's something for consideration for when the time is right. But I think certainly I wanted to give those comparisons to just showcase where our state's at, and I think some financial differences between other Western states. And as far as the modifying language in the Colorado Revised Statute, we could expand some of our good neighbor authorities like we do currently with the U.S. Forest Service. We could expand authorities to National Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we could look at some of those options if that's something the group is interested in. And as far as federal policy changes, we currently work really well, again, with our federal partners with the U.S. Forest Service and have 10-year agreements, which gives some more stability to the work. And we do work with BLM, but they don't have 10-year agreements. And so having some of those fixes, like more long-term 10-year agreements, is something we could possibly look at recommending. As well as, again, on the state side, modifying the code of, or the Colorado Revised Statute, but also looking at, on the federal side, recommending good neighbor authorities expanded to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Park Service. So thinking about the DOI agencies. So I know I've talked a lot. I will stop there and just see, one, what questions you all have, but also, are you interested in having Everett or the folks from Washington talk to this group, or do some kind of information sharing? That's an option. And then thinking about again, those kind of like 3 buckets, and how much of a lift this committee wants to do for GNA. And that's something I know we may not have figured out today, but just wanted to plant those seeds so that way we can have some good discussion about these things today moving forward. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate all of that. And I think I like the idea of the buckets so that we can kind of maybe group it in that way, because I wanted to have my first question. Then Mr. Morgan, when you said state statute changes, because that would be a non-monetary thing, right?
Yeah.
A little easier. Do we have specific language that we know we need to address? Because I'm certainly interested in something like that, because that would be a thing. And then Mr. Morgan, if you wanted to share that. And Mr. Morgan, what's your question?
I had kind of a question and a comment. I was looking at, Christina, the investment through other states. One of the things that is, Colorado's in a bit of a unique position, because you look at Oregon, Washington, if you look at their overall economy and their timber base out there, they have an economic driver, and the driver is growing in the forest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge economic driver and the scale that they have. And so it's a lot easier to get financial commitment from the state because it's such a large part of their tax base and their infrastructure out there. The money comes back to them. And I was trying to think, Colorado, unfortunately, is primarily in the fuels mitigation business. And the primary reason that we mitigate fuels, I guess I'm looking for that economic driver. And to me, it's probably water.
It's avoided costs, yes.
It's water and it's tourism.
Yeah.
And so, they have this, you're envious of their programs and they get the funding for it. And I agree with you. I'm going to be traveling out there again in another month here, but what do we have here that's comparable? And that's why I was looking at the educational side of things to connect that link between our value of water to 19 other states and a base of tourism and skiing and everything. So somehow we've got to connect that link to get the economic driver to get you the program you need to use GNA to manage your forests. And I guess not to get too windy, but that's where I'm coming from on this. I still think we come back to educating people to the importance of this.
So that's great that you bring that up because that is something that we're going to talk about when I talk about the capital days. So great points, Mr. Morgan. Commissioner Medina.
Yes, thank you. You know, the timber industry historically has been a economic driver in Colorado. One of the things that I'm working on for my local economy is bringing the timber industry back and diversifying our economy because we shouldn't just be tourist based and but that's what we went to because I don't know that it's easier, but that's just where we went to. So we need to bring the timber industry back to help all of our economies. And that's how we get the money back in our bank accounts in Colorado because we can do more. We just need to make the choice to do it. So that is one of the things that I'm trying to do locally, but I think we have a bigger opportunity here.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina. I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to go back to the 3 buckets. So first is the state statute changes that Everett and them have identified.
Yes, so in Colorado Revised Statute, there's one for the Healthy Forests, Vibrant Communities that kind of defines good neighbor authority. And so there are opportunities within that section where we could expand. And then also so I have the specific like numbers and sections. I know that might be too detailed to just like read on this call. But certainly for like a future item that we really want to dive into and start to modify language, then we have 2 sections specifically that Everett has pointed out in Colorado Revised Statute that we could look to expand authorities. James,
Well,
sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
That would be great to put those in the chat or in the document.
I'm happy to put them in the chat.
Yeah, because I'm thinking we're voting today to make recommendations for the 6th. And if we have to be able to vote, I mean, we can always vote later to maybe tweak them, but I think if we show we have specific, that would be great. I'm sorry to interrupt, Christina, but I think this is a great point for us to have something actually to look at and change, especially if it's to expand and help. So, and I apologize for interrupting you.
No, it's fine. No, I think your points are well taken. This is really James's expertise too, and like how to do some of these revisions and how to craft some letters. That would be like the 3rd bucket for to our federal legislators for influencing or advocating or supporting certain things. So James, anything that you want to add or clarify?
The only thing that I'll add, excuse me, thank you, is in talking with staff, I think there is a want and a desire to maybe expand, but to do so cautiously, especially we don't know what future administrations might do with the Good Neighbor Authority. So thinking about if we're going to touch Colorado Revised Statute, it's going to say, implement GNA as prescribed by the federal government, because the federal government just went through a process of expanding their own GNA capabilities with the Explore Act. But then if we wanted to maybe do some of that narrative storytelling, we have in Colorado Revised Statutes legislative declarations where we can actually go into why we want to do this with all of the benefits, all of the outcomes and stuff like that. I think the other option that Christina was talking about is briefly, I'm still got my legislative hat on. The legislature routinely sends what are called resolutions or memorials to the federal government, urging them for action. So like we memorialize Congress to, expand Good Neighbor Authority or expand Good Neighbor Authority resource dollars. And so that is also another option. A lot of the times those are seen in the legislature as like wish lists, but it is an option to at least let the federal government know, and specifically our Colorado delegation know that this is something that the state is interested in too.
So that would be the 3rd bucket or the 2nd bucket?
The third.
Okay, so we should write that down as the bucket number 3. And what was the 2nd bucket?
For revisions to expand the authorities within the Colorado revised statute.
So that would be is that, okay, so is that the same as what you put in the chat?
Yes, yeah. Those were the
Did you say-
sections.
Okay. Great. Cool. So it sounds like some administrative recommendations or kind of like that to ask for a memorialization or sent into a delegation. And then secondly, these changes. And then so my question is, you said expand cautiously. Is this what we have up here, expanding cautiously, or is?
This is just just straight from the Colorado revised statute. So this doesn't have any actual like suggested changes at this point in time. This is just the sections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at everyone's faces. So I think, and we have 29 minutes left. So Mr. Morgan.
Christina, do you have any specific suggestions that you would like to see put into that category? You said it's a framework, but there's nothing in it yet.
Yeah.
What does the State Forest Service have specifically?
James, do you remember what Everett, how he worded it?
I think in my recollection, Kristen Garrison, who is Everett's supervisor, specifically talking about just accepting the expansion that the federal government has already allowed within Explore. Because right now, at least at a state level, we are only allowed to partner with those two entities, the U.S. Forest Service and BLM, and that's strictly on federal lands. Private lands. And so what Explore is doing and what Kristen is saying is like, if we can get it into our revised statute to expand it, is they've given authority to go to national parks. So maybe like looking at CPW and how we can maybe do some work with our partners at DNR and CPW, how we can expand that to like tribal lands and stuff like that. But mostly what the wish list here would be is the cautiously moving forward of like, let's allow what the federal government does. Let's allow that in the state of Colorado, but not changing so much that it's saying we want to do X, Y, and Z. It's saying we want to allow what is already allowable at the state level. Because right now, the statute that Christina just put up is a quick introduction, and it's saying, pursuant to Section 331 of the Federal Department of Interior, there are a few other agencies that we'd likely catch with the expansion of the Explore Act. So it's very minimal in changing that.
So, and Courtney just said, would you be able to put this in written form? So is the wording, I still see recommendation. Okay, I see those. So knowing that we're running out of time here, but this is at least something we can form up. And then when we have a presentation, as we get near the 6th, maybe it can be more refined about what the exact, this is the high level ask, and then maybe we can refine it for the discussion for the full board. It gives us a little more days to kind of bring in and get the right language, or the language and cautiously. So Mr. Morgan.
I would agree with that. I was just trying to see what we could do for taking action right now. If this is the only thing that we can do or change, can we be specific? But I'm fine with what you said about kicking the can a little bit down the road, but not too far. If there's something that we can move on here, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and she just shared what she just shared in the chat. And Courtney, I agree. I just saw that, so I was like, okay, let's put that in. So here's my suggestion, just so we can move on because we've got a few more things. Christina suggested 3 buckets. And we can group these in the 3 buckets. And I don't know if you can label those buckets with expansion or federal, whatever. And we can have the 3 buckets. One is expand, and call out the amount of money that other states have and invest and we don't, and how this, Mr. Morgan's point about this is the water that goes downstream for everyone. So just pointing that out. I think that was a great narrative. And then secondly, this is the legislative suggestion for expanding in what state statutes. So now we have something kind of specific. And then the third bucket is encourage the legislature to memorialize or send, I don't know if we can, or ask them to send letters to our legislators to advocate for, I don't know if we have something specific there for to increase Good Neighbor Authority for Colorado. Yep. Does anyone have any? I think hopefully you can see them. Does anyone have any concerns about those three buckets? Mr. Morgan, under that topic. Mr. Morgan.
I just had one quick comment. Commissioner Medina, you just brought home a point to me and I appreciate it very much. There is an intrinsic value in the timber industry in Colorado in and of itself. We've been programmed for so long to be managers of the water resource that I very much appreciate your comment there. And there is a value there in building it back. There were 32 major sawmills in this state in 1970. So you're spot on with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Courtney.
I was just wondering if, Christina, you have the three buckets written out in your notes, because I've been trying to capture.
Just put them in the chat, like how I saw them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm having everybody scramble, but I thought if we could do that, then we can have it when you pull up the final sheet, then we can talk about that, because we have about 25 minutes left. So would you mind, Christine, working on that while we continue talking?
What am I working on?
Oh, just what you've been putting in the chats to share with Courtney to put into the big document.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
So that we can look at it before we vote on it. So it's all on paper. Does that make sense? And so I can continue the discussion so we can keep cruising. If you guys, would that be too confusing? I'm just trying to get us all in.
Yeah, I'm happy to do. I was gonna say I just put it in the chat, so I don't know, Courtney, if you
It's
can
good.
take that.
No, that's good.
Okay. So I think
I'm
we're
moving it
good.
over.
I think we're good, Commissioner.
Sorry, try to have you all multitask.
It's
Like
fine.
me is probably not helpful. So the next idea was something that Pat and I were working on about the grant matching fund and reducing state grants. And my suggestion is that we wait and find more information on this. As I started looking into it, and Pat wasn't really available, I was thinking, well, where does this come from? And there's money in this, but then is it from the governor's office, DNR? Where does this grant match funding? And then I learned that DOLA has a grant match program. And I didn't have enough time to dig into that. And I found out that we're also looking at that. So it might be already things that are in place that we just aren't aware of. And maybe that was something we could kind of help with asking leveraging resources to help us to look at that and see where that is, because there is a grant matching program through the Department of Local Affairs. And so I thought, well, maybe we need to kind of not suggest something that's already maybe there, and maybe we just need to elevate the visibility or ask for it to have changes or more money or something. So there wasn't enough time to pull that all together, but I do know that grant matching and some of that is a problem for some smaller jurisdictions or agencies. So is everyone comfortable moving that into the parking lot? Anyone opposed to that? Okay. So the next one, so then the next one that was kind of, and then I have a couple of ideas that came up from the last week of conversations. So I'm going to just talk about the capital. I don't know if I should share my copy, Courtney. Let's see. Can I share my screen?
I hope so. Let me know if you're having trouble.
Says I'm sharing. Okay, great. You can see on my messy screen. So I don't know if you can see that okay, but we were talking about this education piece and we brought this up a lot today. and our previous conversations. I'm actually going down the next 3 weeks for some things very similar to this, where we're going to have breakfast, talking, bringing information. So this is stuff that's happening already, and I know James and a lot of folks are aware of this. So we'd like to suggest to the full council that we work to find and organize. This would take a lot of time to coordinate and find information, but a breakfast and information sharing, usually it's outside both chambers, and have like the first 2 weeks of session, because they're already having lots of meetings and already, busy. And usually it's around 7:30 to 8, because they're, once they get rolling into committees and stuff, it's going to be hard to get them all corralled into one spot. But as they're walking in the building and before they go into meetings, that's usually the what we have found to be the best time. And so usually Thursdays or Fridays, but that's just the details, but a chance for us to help educate and raise awareness for the urgent need for scale and scope and pace. We talked about kind of a one-pager on the cost of doing nothing, or maybe educate about the Colorado Forest Health Council and kind of share, some of those numbers about the $1 invested, saves $13 of suppression and recovery costs. That's the insurance, the latest insurance one, but I've also heard 1 to 6. That we were wanting to do some, this was just on the notes, talking about the reducing the cost of forestry projects and or post-fire and restoration. I wasn't sure what that was and how we might educate on that. But I thought it was important for us to showcase some of the incredible state programs that are leveraging resources, water, like some of the things that we had shown, the water utilities, Colorado State Forest Service, any boards with photos of certain successful projects like the Breckenridge project that they was it a co-swap or a furworm? I don't remember, and some other projects, and showing their investment in these programs and the outcomes and success stories. Because I think then for those who have been there for a while, this will be, a good way to circle up, because they may not know what happened after they passed this, and then they don't always get to hear how it's been implemented and how's it going. And then also for new legislators to understand how impactful these are. And then also just showing maybe some storyboards and pictures of high intensity mega fires across the state. And so reminding folks of what the cost is. And then also having, when we talked about the GNA education for policymakers, just something important to show about the importance and how Colorado is at the forefront of this, but also not the forefront, because showing the other states, as Christine had shared, how much other states are investing. And then bring any information. I don't think there'd be a lot of cost to have 100 copies, but have some information or QR codes for the annual report or the 30-year plan, and show kind of some more of the scope of what we're doing. And I know this will be a cost for the breakfast and making storyboards and pictures and printing things. So I didn't know if we wanted to have sponsors or have others help maybe pay for breakfast for us and be a sponsor of this. I don't know if we can do that. And then also, do we want to have other groups from around the state come that day to ask questions, like the Fire Commission or other groups? So that's my suggestion, kind of a high level, a lot of work would need to go into this. We'd have to probably have some of us help out to get this organized, but that is my what I kind of put into that, and I hope maybe you'll see some value in that. So Commissioner Medina.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I know we're talking about this for next year, but I think if there was any way, and yes, I agree that it would take a lot of us to actually help do this, but I think this is a great opportunity because of the fires in California to get in front of the legislators and start pushing our agenda, if you will, for next year, and really bring this top of mind. And some of the examples that you gave of being able to do those storyboards, but also doing the storyboard of treated and untreated parts of the forest, because I think that really has an impact as well, because as we know, so many people look at the forest overall and say, oh, that's so beautiful. But when you look at a treated portion of the forest, it's like, wow, now that's beautiful. You can actually see the forest through the trees, you know. So I think those are opportunities that I think we could take advantage of now, because again, with the California fires being top of mind for everybody, I think this is a really good opportunity for us. And I think there is an opportunity, if we're allowed to get sponsors for breakfast, and people are willing to do that now. I just don't know what our limitations are on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And yeah, part of that showing the successful projects, those were all thinning projects. They had before and after pictures of the thinning. And then a fire came through the Breckenridges. And then after all that was done, then the fire came through after that. And so that's kind of that would be very powerful. Kind of also what happened with Cameron Peak, the one area that had been treated. And they have a movie actually that's 15 minutes long that shows all of that and has grown. So there's lots of information. There's lots of pictures and videos and documentation for that out there. So we wouldn't have to create anything. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, do you have even a ballpark estimate of what you thought it would cost for this breakfast?
Oh, it would be probably, I would say a minimum of $1,500.
Okay. Wow.
Just for breakfast, not the storyboards and everything else. But if you do coffee, yeah.
And then I would consider contributing to that. I think this educational side of this thing is huge, and I could try to come up with some more sponsors. And the second thing would be if it helps anybody, I have a pretty good library of before and after treatment photos that we've taken over the years. So anybody wanted to make any use of that, they could.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There is plenty of folks that have that. And I was thinking of you and some of the other projects that have been funded by the firm. So that's great. Katie, and just reminding me, we have 10 minutes left. I have one more thing to bring up.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll keep it quick. I just wanted to say the Colorado Forest Collaboratives Network works with a whole bunch of different like community-based nonprofit collaboratives who are doing work across boundaries. And I think it would be really cool to feature some of those groups. I think they are really good examples of people who are using state funding, leveraging state funding, getting work done across political differences. And we also could even potentially look for collaboratives that serve the communities of the legislators that we know will be there, especially if they're people who we know, like, you know, don't know what's going on in their community or something. We could bring those people in. So just wanted to throw that out there. I think that would be really great case studies to showcase. And potentially the Colorado Forest Collaboratives Network could sponsor getting some of those people there, and maybe breakfast as well so just want to throw that out there. And I think this is a really
yeah, this is why I said at that last sentence, we would look for any partners, because I was thinking about that as well, Katie, and Watersheds and others. So I do think there's people to do this. I just don't know. I was hoping that we could ask the AG's office or DNR, are we allowed to let others sponsor us? I know we have with other things, and I'm just curious about that. So I don't know if that's something we could find out before we present. But if we want to put this on the suggestions to the Forest Health Council, and I hear you, Commissioner Medina, about trying to get in front of them now and then. It's just logistically trying to know if that's even possible. So, Allison.
Yeah, I'll reach out and get that information ASAP.
Great. Okay. So do I have a motion? I mean, I can clean this up, but do I have a motion for this mostly as presented on this page to put this on as a suggestion to the Forest Health Council to approve as a not legislative, but administrative, I guess it would be administrative opportunity for us all to partner on?
I would so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right. So I was thinking, I have one more suggestion. Let me see if I can move it up. And I know this is kind of out of left field, but we've kind of talked about this already, but we don't have the list first. If you can see this, if the CSU Workforce Extension Bill does not get passed in whole or at all, I was wondering if we would be considering to put this back on the list as a placeholder to bring this back up and put back in for next year, or if they don't get the full $1.5 million, they only get so much to kind of put the shell in and then fill the program and then fill the shell in later. So I was wondering if we could, if you would all consider or think about putting that back on the list just to kind of see that through to full implementation. Thoughts on that? Everyone loves the bill, but it's just the price tag. So we'll see if they get what they get done this year. Any thoughts on that? Any objections? Everyone there?
No objections. I
Okay.
agree with you.
All right, let's take, I mean, it's like, I can't see all your faces, so I'm like, is everyone there? I will look for a motion then. Do I have any motion to put that in a second?
I still move what you stated. To keep this on, to put it back on if it's removed.
I would
I guess.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, next item. We keep talking about, oops, sorry. Let's see, where was my, wild mass. And Mr. Morgan, you were talking about this as well. And I know our study just got done and there's actually actionable items on it. And I know the State Forest Service's study is going to be done here in about a couple of months. And as I understand it, there'll be some actual items out of that as well. So since we're looking at 2026 and we don't know the financial landscape, my idea, which I know I'm throwing at you, but we've discussed this, and Mr. Morgan, you brought up the transportation piece, right? And the trouble with that. And looks like there might be some concrete solutions. So my thoughts are, and I can have more numbers and stuff for the February 6th date, is to ask for funding resources for a county or organizations. I just put counties because I was thinking about this late at night after all the other things I was doing. Inaugural project or pilot project for two, either to help with 2 sort yards, to help near major mitigation projects, because I thought we needed to be specific in areas of the forest that have already plans that are in place or approved. And then the funding would help with the project to support the sorting and transfer or transport of the woody biomass to established locations where that will be mitigated and taken care of. So it's only that section of the piece, not trying to talk about mitigation, not trying to do what you do with it afterwards. It's just that section of transferring it off the landscape instead of piling and getting it, funding those programs or pilot programs. And there are not a lot of them, and how you would get that from the landscape in those areas down to bigger areas that can manage that and take care of it in a sustainable way. And put that in there too. Thoughts on this? And I'm going to stop presenting. Commissioner Medina.
So I definitely like the idea. I just worry about some of the verbiage, because when you say too large, we're not defining it, because that is left open to interpretation of what large scale is meant. Again, I would just caution us, because in the rural communities, we may not have a large scale compared to the Front Range, right? I know that you in your county you've done a lot of work on this and done your own study. So again, compared to what we're doing in Archuleta County, it's definitely a smaller scale. So I would just, not that I like the word fair, but I would like an even playing field. So even rural counties would be able to be considered for such a thing.
And that's a great point. And I think it's okay to not be large. I think it would just be where the projects are either established or shovel ready, being ready to be implemented. So it's not, so they can be actionable now and not someone who's planning to do something. So it's already kind of a, so we can.
Agreed. I like
yeah.
the word shovel ready. I like that.
Mr. Morgan.
Just two quick comments. Sort yards have been tried in the past and they weren't particularly successful. I think we should look into what worked and what didn't work on those. I think there should be studying that a little bit. And secondly, in the timber industry, there's an old joke around or an old saying that says wood's free until you touch it. And every time you touch it, increase the cost of dealing with it. And so generally on the industrial side, we attempt to determine where a product is going to end up just as soon as we possibly can. We start sorting at the stump, we start sorting when we're loading. And so the whole goal of that is to not handle it. And sort yards, I don't want to rain on this because I think they have their place and not to, I think they have a place for assembling material that would not normally be captured. I think they have a very good value there. But to move material on scale, they generally add to the cost of moving the material. So I think we just need to be careful there. If you've got a high concentration of small landowners, I think sort yards could be a tool and they could help you, but just
Well,
thoughts.
great point. And so like I mentioned, I think there's the two studies that, as I understand, and I know we just had a big presentation on this, and this was one of the, after the $200,000 and the consultants and travel and feedback, this was one of the first actionable steps. And so I know this is going forward, but just knowing that there's things on either end are being taken care of. And we talked about transportation. So we can narrow it just to pilot projects, looking at transportation of biomass from the mitigation site to, because that transportation piece, I don't think is ever going to get solved unless it has funding from sources to get it to be moved, if that makes sense. So.
One thing that I've always been looking for direction for ever since I've been involved in these types of things is how much material we're going to remove from the forest versus how much we're going to alter the material. Are we going to do fuels restructuring and stays in place, or are we going to concentrate on removing it? I think you're going to have to do both. But I think one thing I'm looking for is that balance point. And so when I start looking at biomass, how much biomass has to leave the forest? And then we try to deal with that, and how much could possibly stay in the forest through mastication or other management methods. So I was hoping for your biomass report. I'm waiting to see if that answers that question.
It does.
Okay. What does it say?
Well, first, we're out of time, so can we take a vote to take 5 more minutes?
Okay.
So vote, because we have to still vote on these others, or let's put 10 in case we don't need it. I need a motion
moved.
to extend. Is there a second?
Second.
Cool. Anybody, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. While we're still discussing, let's go back because I don't want to lose the vote for the other thing, and Samantha's here. So let's put a pin in this real quick.
Okay.
And let's go back to Christina's, those 3 buckets. Do we have that on the document that we can look at what it's there so we can vote on it? and put that into the list?
Yeah, I wasn't exactly, sorry, I'm looking for the list. I didn't have all three things as a recommendation, so I'd love for y'all to look at it. I have the 3 buckets, A, B, and C, but I only saw Christina really share one recommendation. So if there are more recommendations, let me know and I can clarify that in this document.
I think we just want to, I think just increasing state funding would just be kind of general, like whatever we can to make it more than 6 million would be.
So this is also number 1 would also be a legislative the A would also be a recommendation.
Well, yeah, we can make it 3 buckets. So if the council doesn't like that bucket, at least we can maybe get B and C done. So they're all 3 recommendations under GNA is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I have to hop, but I support moving forward with this. So if that counts as my vote, I can provide it now.
So do we need to clean this up some more? Or do you want to vote on, do we need to have exactly verbiage to vote on, or Courtney?
I think the committee could vote to give Jody or Christina or someone sort of the delegation to clean this up a little bit. I can send out the language to the committee for final approval before February 6th. So I think the committee could vote for there to be some language tweaking.
Okay, so let's do this. How about a motion to approve these recommendations, A, B, and C, to move forward, plus give Courtney, Christina, and I authority to fine tune the language before February 6th. That is not substantially changed from this.
I so move.
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Anyone opposed? Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, James. Have a great day. And we have the other one voted on as a recommendation to throw the other one back on if it doesn't pass. So let's go back
It's
to,
down here.
cool. So the last one, go back to this idea of mine. I don't have, I have bone dry truns and all that stuff, Mr. Morgan. I didn't bring it today because I just knew we didn't have time to discuss it.
That's fine.
But it's there. And it's pretty down to about 7 million bone dry tons, and a discussion of what stays and all that stuff.
Okay.
So it's there. So I just, the reason I'm thinking about this is if we wait for another year, we get these studies out and they're ready to go. And then legislative, this is for next year. If we create a shell for pilot programs to fund to accelerate these or not, if we wait another year, they might already, it's another year of waiting for funding, and there may not be funding. I don't know. So my thought was to create a, like we had before, kind of those, and I say 2 because I figure more than that's probably going to be physically hard. But I was thinking the State Forest Service, as I understand the report, should be done in March or April and out, and with analysis.
Yes.
And there's
Yeah,
some
March or
actual things there, some actual things with us that I think can be scalable for a lot of folks. So I was thinking it could be another one from a different part of the county that has, maybe in Commissioner Medina's has an actual program that be increased in scale and scope. But I think it was just kind of the shovel ready things that are ready to roll, so that maybe not last year of 2026 been able to accelerate, enhance, and get a piece. The hardest piece of the biomass issue is the transportation and getting it off the landscape and getting the funding for that. So, Commissioner Medina.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I think the only thing I would say to that is, again, just readjusting some of that verbiage. And I don't know that we say two, it might only be one, right? Depending on the funding. So I think it would depend on how much funding we have as to how many projects that could be allowed. But I would be hesitant to limit it with a number. It should be based on funding.
Okay, great point. So, how about, since we're out of time, we can, and again, these can always be voted down at February 6th, that we vote, if you're open. If not, that's cool. I'll keep working on this other ways. Funding for pilot programs to address the transfer and transportation of biomass from mitigation sites to end product means. Implement pilot program, and then we then give permission for Courtney and whoever and I to fine tune this information.
I want to be supportive of this. I really would like to see your biomass study and the state's biomass study first. I understand where you're going, Commissioner. That would be.
Because by the time we get to presenting this in the summer for the Wildfire Interim Committee, we might have more details of exactly what that would look like and more information. So this would put a place card holder in this spot to see if this comes out with things that we could say, hey, this is something we really have been, talking about for years. We think this is too open to do. Commissioner Medina.
Yes, I would so move on your motion, and again, to what Mr. Morgan stated, is also to have those two studies available so that way we could have more information so we could move this forward. And I would love to be a part of also flushing out some of this verbiage.
I don't think the other study is going to be done until March. Ours is a high-level presentation that's moving forward that has data and stuff. So I can always share that with you because it was shared publicly now. So, just, I hear the hesitation. Courtney.
I'm wondering if this could be something sort of, so I remember last year, we said we want to do a workforce bill. And then we got all the details from Carrie Rollins about the 4-H program. And we sort of amended the recommendation later when we had more information. And I know that's not really the best practice to be changing them heavily, but I think there is a little precedent for saying we want to support biomass expenses around transportation or sort yards. And then when more information is available, perhaps the recommendation can be filled in. And James or Christina, Allison, I don't know if you guys have other insights. I know we're doing this so early so that we can get this information to the departments. And so there's a little bit of funniness around then changing it later or building it out later, but it seems like that could be a possibility.
Yeah, you're kind of taking my thoughts and making a little more articulate and eloquent, but yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
I don't see an issue with that right now. If this is a recommendation that the council is trying to move forward for presentation to the Wildfire Matters Review Committee. I can also ask Daphne if it has to be like that. If there is a recommendation, it must be for departments and for Wildfire Matters, or if it can be an or. And this isn't necessarily something that the council believes needs to be a departmental recommendation. So I can look further into that, but I don't. Sorry if that was, I see a couple nodding heads, so I might have said something that was clear.
I think that's a great point, putting an or in, and then we can kind of flesh this out. But, you know, we could always, in February 6th, we could just say, okay, this might need to go back to be baked by then, but at least get a something, because there was precedent to that, and we had this issue come in and bring a lot of details. So, and I should be able to get a lot more. And I don't know what the state one is, but I know your guys are so close to having that out and shared. And I'm as I understand, there's some actionable items coming out of that report. And if I'm nodding heads, yes, no, sounds like there is. Yeah. So I'm seeing that. So yeah, that's why I'm just trying to capitalize on that. Let me see your comment. And we're at 11. Let's see. Sorry, I can't read it. My screen keeps changing. Let's see. Yeah, that's great. So
Yeah.
I'm looking for a motion that this should be, as Courtney stated, you did a really good job how you stated that, Courtney, that we want to suggest a recommendation on biomass, transportation of biomass or transfer, approved, to be approved, and then in April we'll add more details and bring it back to the full committee in April.
I don't know
And
if
have the
there's
or in
still
there.
a motion on the floor because I did.
Oh,
Um,
yep, you did.
So,
You did.
so there's still
Thank you.
a motion on the floor. We just need
You're
a
right. I
second.
apologize, Commissioner Medina. I'm just watching the clock.
I
and
would
nothing. So-
second that.
Okay, there was a second from, and you seconded Commissioner Medina's?
Yes.
Okay, so let's vote on that. Could you repeat your motion, Commissioner Medina, since I confused everyone with picking a second one?
Wow, I think I just said so moved of what you said because it was kind of a
Okay.
long motion.
Okay,
Courtney,
go
did you
back
get
and-
that?
yep. I think she did.
Well, I will find it.
You'll clean it
I
up.
can't read it back right now.
Again, we can always like dump this in February, so, but we should have more stuff then.
I won't go on the record, but Courtney, you need a raise.
Yeah, she does. All right. All those in favor of the motion and the second on the floor?
I
Is anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you all for your patience. We got through a lot, but I do think we have some good things to bring forward that and some things that need to be fleshed out. But really great conversations. Thank you all for the work. And thank you for your patience. And we'll, Courtney, do you think we can send this out earlier to kind of fine tune this? I can work with you. We can fine tune all of that before February 6th. So maybe we can get that all fine tuned before it goes back out to on the 6th. Commissioner Medina.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to hit it.
Oh, so we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Awesome. Anybody opposed? Great. Everybody have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to get us through.